Time to right the ship is now. Bills cannot afford to have many more games like they've had over the last month or so. Welcome to Buffalo End Zone Podcast, everyone. I'm Kevin Carroll. Glad to have you with us.
And I'm Jon Scott. Kevin, should we have a meeting amongst ourselves to kind of get things on track here at our department or what?
We always do, but nothing ever happens from it.
We'll see if it changes for the Bills.
We can have a sports department only meeting all we want, John. Rarely does that have any effect on anything else. But yeah, you're right. The Buffalo Bills, John, they're in a place they didn't plan on being at this point of the season, but here we are with the Bills needing to start to string wins together, struggling to move the ball and put up points on offense, and dealing with a boatload of injuries on defense that they're going to have to deal with. You got a game coming up against a team that on paper you should beat, John, but the time to turn things around is now, and with that, now you have the Thursday before their Monday night game against the Broncos, a players-only meeting put together by a veteran, albeit someone who's new to the team.
Offensive-only players involved in a meeting led by Latavius Murray, who has done this one other time in recent weeks to try to put the onus on the players themselves and figure out solutions as to what they can do to get the offense humming. And Murray laying it out saying, well, first, why I feel comfortable is because I'm an 11-year vet. I feel I've earned the right, even though I've only been with this specific team. This is the first season. You respect a guy who's been in the league 10-plus years, who has played for many different teams and continues to be a successful player at his age and status in the league. And we'll see if the message gets across, whatever was discussed. And it was a lot from Murray's perspective of trying to sift through, well, how do we get better? How do we do this? And Khalil Shakir saying another part of it was just remember who we are. We're an incredibly talented bunch. We're alphas. We're dogs. We're savages. Go out there and play like it. Mm-hmm. And so Josh Allen, not specifically referencing the players-only meeting, but just in general, when asked about play calling, which I think this all kind of folds into it, saying Ken Dorsey can call whatever he wants. It's ultimately on the guys on the field. And so I think you take that seems to be the message amongst the players is we need to be the ones to be better. And if we alone are better, then a lot of these other issues should be fine. Like, and none of the players are saying this. Do we think that the play calling's great? No, if you listen to the last podcast, we don't. We could be critical of that. But it appears that the players seem to be shouldering a lot of it, maybe more so than they feel the coaching staff should, of saying our offense is not operating the way it should because of the things that we are doing. And that was part of the driving force, and I think the discussion amongst these players on the offensive side of the ball without coaches present.
Yeah, I think that this is all well and good, John, but it's time to start seeing it on the field and start having it pay off. You hear about, and like you said, I was not aware that they had a players-only meeting before led by Murray. But I think the fan base is sick of hearing I got to do better. We got to do better. It's not the coach's fault. We're the ones out on the field that need to execute. You know, you even hear Sean McDermott say when he's asked about Dorsey, well, yeah, but the players, ultimately, it's on them to get done what we're asking them to get done. And that's all well and good to own up to it. But if this turns into just a lot of talk again going into a game against a Broncos team that you should beat, that the Dolphins hung 70 points on, that you're digging the hole more and more, and you're getting closer and closer to the point where this was the easy part of the schedule. And they're borderline 500 right now with a lot in front of them. So it's all well and good that they had the players-only meeting. We'll ultimately see on Monday night. I don't know. I'm just skeptical of it. Like, I don't care about it. That you can say all you want, and I'm talking in circles at this point right now. But I don't know. To me, a players only meeting doesn't do much. Has it done something for teams in the past? I can't think off the top of my head. But to me, it always rings that it's a losing team that does this kind of stuff in a last-ditch effort to try and fix something.
Fix something.
Halfway through the season when you're coming up on a tough stretch right now for a team that should be doing way better than they are.
Here's where I would maybe put my skepticism on the effectiveness of it. It's the second one they've had in a couple weeks, and what has changed?
Right.
I'm sure the conversations were the same because the issues are still the same. Execution isn't as good as it needs to be, among other things. But from a internal players, what can we do to be better? It's simply execution. And I don't know if I would say the execution is drastically better. And the players themselves are saying that it's not drastically better. It's not improved to the point where it should be, because if it was, these conversations wouldn't needed to be had. Some of the response, the next leg of this, some of the responses I got when I put it out there on Twitter was, why is Latavius Murray doing this? Mm-hmm. Why is it not Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, others who have been here far longer? I won't speak to that. Murray's the one who felt that it was necessary. I will add, again, before we knew that there was a players-only meeting and it was specifically offensive guys, Josh Allen was asked about if he felt it was time for him to be more vocal and take a different approach as a leader. And he says that's not really who he is. When he speaks, he wants it to be, all right, we know that this is the moment is necessary for it, but that's not something in front of the entire team or the offense in this case. That's not really how he operates. He's more of an individual type communicator and more shows with his actions. So that would be my only, based on the information that I have, that would be the only reason that I would say that maybe Allen's not the one driving this train and it's more Latavius Murray. But I understand why people see this and say, why on earth is the elder statesman on the team who's been here since the spring, now twice in the past couple of weeks, feel the need to be this one who's been the vocal guy and not some of the other more prominent players?
There are just vocal guys in there. I don't have a problem with Josh Allen saying he's not that guy to do that. There are plenty of leaders who lead through action and not rah and let's get everyone together and let's get everyone fired up. I mean, you know, even in our line of work, I'm not someone to be rah. I was never like that, and I was never a captain by any means. I mean, I'd never even really played, but I don't have a problem with Josh Allen being like that. And Latavius Murray, as someone who's been in the league longer than everyone else, who's been around teams that have made runs, that he steps forward and is like, I'll be the voice. I'll get everyone in. And I think I heard other people, he said other people did talk or speak up during it. I don't think any specific names were mentioned, but, you know, one would assume that people who play a big role in what's going on with the offense did also have some input.
And we're not saying that other more prominent, well-known leaders have not said things, have not taken a leadership role or lacking their commitments as leaders. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't know exactly specifics, but I firmly believe Deion Dawkins, Mitch Morse, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis is a captain this year. Those are just guys on offense that captains wear C's, have worn C's, that I think you could assume rightfully that they are leading the ship. Kevin, here's the one thing that they're also saying that I'm curious your thoughts on. Sean McDermott, I believe more than once, has said this. Well, we're confident we're going to get this turned around because we've done it in the past. We've been in this situation. A few years ago, we were 7-6, and people were counting us out. But we're the Buffalo Bills. This is what we do. We get it turned around. But yet, every other type of topic that involves looking back at the past and how it can be used in the present,
right?
It's a different year, it's a different week, it's a different team. So what is it, Kevin? We all know that there's certain things that are coach speak, and it's just status quo. This is the kind of the phrases and things, the company lines that they use. I think you can take things from the past, but I think it is wildly flawed, and I'm not saying this is all that they're resting their hopes on, but if you think that just because the core of your team is the same and you have weathered storms in the past that it's going to happen this time, I think that's a bad place to be.
And I agree with you. Plus, the difference to me between having gone through this before and being able to turn things around, Josh Allen wasn't where he is right now around the league, where defenses know what you're getting. Or Josh Allen was still kind of at the early part of him becoming the Josh Allen everyone knows right now. Also, down the stretch that year, a few years ago, Carolina Panthers, Patriots, Atlanta Falcons, New York Jets were the teams that they were playing down the stretch. Not good teams that year. This year, it's the Dallas Cowboys, it's the Eagles, it's the Chiefs, it's the Miami Dolphins. That's going to be a lot tougher. So, yeah, you look at the Broncos game coming up, Monday Night Football at home. Bills are basically undefeated at home. The game over in London was a home game, but at Highmark Stadium undefeated. Then you have the Jets coming to town, and you and I would look at that and be like, okay, so that's 2 wins there. That can get you going in the right way. But I got to tell you, for the first time over the last few years when this Josh Allen, Sean McDermott team became what it is, I have no faith right now that this offense can turn things around.
I don't know why you would.
Right.
We've been saying now for a couple of weeks, I was aligned with maybe what McDermott and Josh Allen are saying of, well, we've gotten through this in the past and we're fine. That's how I was feeling for a long time. I know it's the same pieces, but they certainly are not operating the same way. And until I see it consistently, stack a couple games in a row, I'm still in the show me state right now of things of, all right, you showed me a half and a half or so, so 3 quarters against Tampa, and that was your quote-unquote get-right performance, and then you come back and have the ones that since then. It doesn't work for me yet. And to your point, Denver's playing better. The Jets are giving everyone fits, even win or lose. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the meat and potatoes of this thing. So it's not an easy time or slate ahead to figure things out.
So talk is cheap, as they say. I'm in that camp too, where show me, don't want to hear it anymore. Even during wins, John, our last couple of post-game shows, listening to Josh Allen talk about everything he needs to start doing better. Well, when are you going to start doing it? Start doing it now, because the room for error is so slim right now that you slip up, like you can't afford to. That season 2 years ago we're talking about where they lost to the Jaguars 9-6. You can't afford at this point in the season to have something like that happen against the Broncos team that beat the Kansas City Chiefs a few weeks back. So you have a depleted defense, and I think you and I have talked about this more. You need now an offense that's putting up points in the 30s the rest of the way in order to win, because while you can keep that defense together with spit and mud and leaves and gobbledygook, this offense needs to be the offense that it's supposed to be starting now. Get out to fast starts and just don't take your foot off the gas. Put up big numbers. what is it? They've been under 20 points 3 times this year. They went from that stretch against the Raiders, Commanders, and Dolphins where they're in the upper 30s and 40s to struggling to do anything. And again, we've said for weeks, no one has any idea what's gone on or how it happened. But Josh Allen in that offense right now, John, needs to be aware they need to put up points because what's going on with the defense should be pretty scary to Bills fans on what these games are going to start to look like.
And I agree, and I'm glad that you are putting this on Josh Allen also. We railed on Ken Dorsey after the Bengals game. I'm not saying it wasn't justified. We also qualified it as saying we know it's not all his fault.
Right.
But at some point, you have to direct a lot of it in a certain direction here. And I think Ken Dorsey does shoulder a good amount of blame. But to your point, and it's easy to do when you go back and watch it maybe a second time or you see screenshots on of videos, he's missing guys. He's not reading the field and making the decisions and scanning things and finding the open guys because it's not like they're always covered. He often seems, for whatever reason now, to almost lock on his first read and premeditate it, and that's where he's going. I think on that Gabe Davis interception, I think he just turned and looked at Gabe Davis and threw it. And in my opinion, barring something immaculate, which he certainly is capable of, it was never there.
Right.
And meanwhile, again, hindsight, slow it down, coach's view, Diggs and Cook, I believe, were both open on that. And there's
Cook,
been
I know
it's not just the Cincinnati game. In this stretch from the Jacksonville game on, there have been more moments than we're accustomed to where Allen is making a decision on a throw that even in real time appears never to be there when there are other things. And I know defenses are changing and explosive offenses beyond the Bills are being more limited than we've seen in recent years. But that's where patience falls in, and that's what we've been preaching. Yeah, there's the up-tempo and the quick and all of that. I think it's just patience. And if you have to death by 1,000 paper cuts, that's fine. I think that Dorsey, coming out of the Cincinnati game, us being part of that group, was getting a lot of heat. But I think once we've maybe calmed down, it's Dorsey's still up here.
Right.
But I think Josh Allen and the rest of the offense, and that's what I think the heart of their players-only meeting is they have to step up as well.
Yeah, I think instant reaction in a game like the game against Cincinnati lean towards attacking Dorsey. But as the week goes on, and again, I didn't sit there and rewatch the entire game, but if the game is on replay on NFL Network, I'll leave it on and watch bits and pieces of it. You start to see more of how the game actually played out and decisions that Josh Allen made. Sometimes I think something that I thought I saw during the Bengals game that worked against Tampa Bay to Gabe Davis, where he made a couple of contested catches down the sideline, that gets stuck in the head. Well, it worked a few times a week ago against another team. Let's keep trying it. Ultimately, I think that's why Gabe Davis didn't see much out of it. There wasn't a flow there with him.
One thing, it's an interesting dynamic when you talk about the pass catchers, because I liked what they did with Gabe Davis in the Tampa game. He wasn't just on the outside streaking down the field. He was involved in the short slants and quick passes and got involved, and he played pretty well. And I liked that dynamic of the offense. And now with the emergence of Khalil Shakir and not going 12 personnel because Dawson Knox is hurt, it seems like it's Stephon Diggs, and now you're seeing the ascension of Shakir and then Dalton Kincaid. And as I've said many times over the past couple of years in this conversation for the secondary options, I don't think Gabe Davis has to be the number 2 and put up 1,000 yards and all of that stuff. You just need other options that defenses have to account for. So in terms of the operation and flow of the unit, I think this is a positive to see Kincaid and Shakir grow. But I do think you just can't have their growth come at the complete expense of Gabe Davis not being involved whatsoever.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a product of simply the Cincinnati game. But Davis, his entire career, has kind of been feast or famine of sorts. Not feast of 100-plus yards, but he's either 70, 80-plus and a touchdown, or he's 2 for 20. And I feel like there's probably a middle ground there to where you can add a dynamic threat as an outside guy opposite of Stephon Diggs.
And that's the other thing that drives you nuts about this offense right now, is that you see against Tampa Bay them do that, and then the following week it's just Gabe Davis running down the field again. So we watch stuff like, well, you went up tempo to start the Buccaneers game. That worked for you. You went up tempo to start the Bengals game, but you went away from it. You had Gabe Davis more involved in different positions as far as a wide receiver goes. That worked. Why aren't you doing it against the Bengals? I think that leads to some of the frustration, as it seems like when they figure one thing out, it doesn't transfer. You talk about Kincaid and Shakir, John. Going into the season, it was all Trent Sherfield and Deontay Hardy are going to bring elements to this team that are going to help with this offense, and you're not seeing any of that either. Now it's what you said. It's Kincaid, it's Shakir. Hardy maybe once or twice a game sees something, it appears to me. Sherfield came in and was playing towards the end of the game, but you don't see him getting much, at least passes going his way.
He has 10 targets on the season, and that includes 4 games where he's not been targeted at all. And I think Trent Sherfield's a good player.
I do too.
And then you talk about Deontay Hardy. And it wasn't a lot of volume. He started with 4 targets in the opener, 3-3, 2-2, 1-1, none, 1. He hasn't had a catch since the New England game. He has 2 catches dating back from the Giants, New England, Tampa, Cincinnati. He has 2 catches for 13 yards. But again, I think there was a role, and maybe this is where you switch over to Dorsey, of there's a lot of hands to feed, a lot of mouths to feed. So when you feel confident and you think Hardy can bring something, you think Sherfield can bring something, and you think Shakir and Kincaid and Cook, people want to see him involved in the passing game, and Davis, and then you need to get Stephon Diggs. I mean, if Allen's throwing it 35 times a game, and let's say Diggs is just going to get 10, that's 25 for what, 6 other people? You're not going to get it all up there. But to me, that's where it shouldn't just be, that's where you get the pops. And that's where, like a Gabe Davis, when I'm looking at him, first week, Jets, 2 catches for 32 on 4. Not great. Then he comes back the next week, 6 for 92, a touchdown on 7. Then it's like 1 for 35, 3 for 61. Oh, against Jacksonville, he was sensational. He was the best player, I think, out there, 6 for 100 on 8. Okay, then we go 3 for 21, 1 for 6. Oh, in that Tampa game, we liked the way they utilized him. 9 catches, 87 yards, 12 targets. And then right from there, you go 0 for 2.
Right.
And to me, it's
so
I feel like that's the coaching element of it for me, is I'm fine if there's maybe some inconsistencies. I think Davis should be maybe a little more consistent, but why can't Trent Sherfield have some games like that? Why can't Deontay Hardy, and frankly, why can't Khalil Shakir? I think we know now with Knox out, Diggs is 1 and Kincaid's probably 2. I think there can be maneuvering of things based upon game and opponent and scheme and
which is
game
what
plan.
I believe the plan was, what we heard all summer long.
Correct, and it has yet to come to fruition.
And I will say this, I think Shakir has done enough, though, to see the bulk of playing time he's been seeing. he's been performing out on the field. Him and Kincaid have kind of popped out over the last few weeks. That being said, if the trend continues, John, Gabe Davis should have a pretty good game on Monday nights, because maybe now more is being focused on Dalton Kincaid and Stephon Diggs, whereas before it was probably Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs getting the bulk of attention. I think a lot of teams see what the Bills actually have in Kincaid and will kind of start switching and maybe open up some more opportunities, but they got to be schemed right to get him involved in the game. We always talk about Josh needs to get involved in the game. It just seemed like, other than blocking, Gabe Davis was not really, other than go run down the field as far as you can. And then there was that intentional grounding thing, but go run down the field as far as you can, and Josh will get you the ball if you're even remotely open. And I think that needs to be mixed up a heck of a lot more.
Here's not a problem, but we keep talking and looking ahead to the other part of the schedule when you start getting into Philadelphia and Kansas City and Dallas and things like that. The Denver Broncos, their season-wide numbers will say easy breezy.
Yes.
But much like some of the conversation around the Bills are, well, if you look at their season-long stats, it skews what's been happening recently.
The Bills' offense is still, top 5?
Right. And so I'm looking at the Broncos' defense.
Yeah.
Last in the league in total yards, 405 per game. Last in against the run, 26th against the pass, 28.3 points per game allowed. They allowed 31st down, 726 total yards, and 70 points against the Dolphins in Week 3. But if you look at the last 3 weeks, 2 of these games against the Kansas City Chiefs, one against Green Bay, 19 points, 17 points, 9 points. They held the Chiefs and they just beat them. Then they had their bye week. Denver's playing a little better, and it's something you would expect with some young, talented guys like Patrick Surtain. Simmons is a good player that even was there with Von Miller. They're not someone that I think you just should expect based on stats, that they're going to come in there and be like, players only meeting with the offense. We're under fire. We've done it before. It's primetime Josh. Voila. We're good. I think this may be a tougher challenge than maybe some people expect. And that's part of me because, again, I need to see it to believe it, but also because I'm not underestimating the Denver Broncos.
Josh Allen, 3-3 on Monday Night Football for his career. So it's not like you talk about primetime Josh. Monday night has been hit or miss with Josh Allen, but usually they're putting up points when they come out on the short end. And you know me, I'm never a stats guy. I'm never a numbers guy. I'm always the eye test on the field and what you're seeing. And that is to be of concern for the Bills that, while the numbers say they should be able to pass the ball, run the ball, you talk about starting to get a balanced offense with run and pass. This should be the game if you look at the numbers where you should be able to get chunk run plays. Looking at the numbers on this Broncos defense, you should be able to pass the ball and slowly move the ball downfield and hit some big plays here and there. But again, I don't trust this offense to do that, and I think the Broncos maybe even building off of what they did against the Chiefs. You do have Sean Payton there. You do have Russell Wilson there as well.
And I watched a lot of the last 2 Chiefs games. There are 2 Chiefs games that Denver played. I mean, they held Patrick Mahomes and made him look human, which is not normal. And sometimes Mahomes was making throws that I have the same reaction when Josh Allen makes them of, what was that? I mean, it just looks so out of character for Mahomes. 293 total passing yards in the first one when they held Kansas City to 19 points. They lost that game. Then 212 total passing yards, only 9 points for Kansas City when they beat them the second time around a couple weeks ago. I'm a here and now type guy, and when you have talent, new coaching staff, and you face the Chiefs, even though I'll also acknowledge the Chiefs' offense isn't the Chiefs' offense. They're not humming like they usually do this season. I am going to respect that. And the offense is also an interesting case because last year it was Russell Wilson is cooked. Instead of let Russ cook, it's Russ is cooked.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched a little bit, but I was surprised. Again, you just base it on the numbers. 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He's playing well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not doing anything crazy. Like, he's not throwing for a ton of yards.
I'm glad you said that because I have the 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and I'm like, I might have read that wrong, and John's going to end up correcting me on air because that doesn't sound right.
Right.
When you think of the Broncos, but it is.
So he's thrown a touchdown pass in every game that they've played this season, but he's only thrown for just over 1,600 yards and less than 200 in the last 4 games, 196, 95, 194, and 114. So their defense, going back to that, has kind of been what has kept them in games, and now they're 3-5, and they're playing better.
Mm-hmm.
And their offense is kind of doing just enough. An efficient Russell Wilson who's running for his life because he keeps getting sacked a ton of times. But when he has time and he shows some glimpses of these old Russ can make some plays with his feet and break loose and broken plays and make things out of that. They have talented guys in the offense. This is why it's all adds up to me of, do I think the Bills could win by 2 touchdowns? Sure. Do I think it could be another nail-biter into the wee hours of the morning on Monday night? I think so, too. And that's one of those where if the offense once again lets a team like this hang around because they can't produce anything, this is an offense led by a future Hall of Fame quarterback that is shown to be efficient enough that they can make plays down the stretch if you let them hang.
Yeah, and that's why I want to emphasize the Bills' offense needs to put up a lot of points. And that brings me on top of everything you just said about the Broncos. The Bills' defense is in shambles right now because of injuries. Like, you don't even know right now, and you can go through the injury list. You were there. But who the heck is playing in the defensive backfield? Or who's not 100%, but who's ready to really go and be out there, because there's big names on this Bills injury report to start the week.
Thursday, first day of practice for the week because it's a Monday night game. As we tape this, it's 6:30 on Thursday. Both safeties missed practice. Micah Hyde with the neck stinger, which has to give you some concern because he dealt with that serious neck injury that cost him his season last year. Jordan Poyer out with the shin injury. And then Christian Benford had a hamstring injury pop up during the game. That is why we didn't see him at the back end. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because he was benched for Dane Jackson and Rasul Douglas. And so those two would be your corners. I don't want to speculate. I would imagine one of the safeties would play. And obviously Taylor Rapp has been seen more time and has gotten a start this season, so he would be the next in line there. That's where, okay, not ideal. It appears Terrell Bernard is trending in the right direction. Right. He's limited in the concussion protocol still, but to have that happen this early in the week would give you hope that he could clear protocol by game time. And then up front, obviously you still don't have Daquan Jones, but everybody else seems to be at least healthy enough to not be on the injury report. Leonard Floyd was out with an illness. He's been, battling through an ankle, and
right.
Ed Oliver battling through something, Greg Rousseau battling through a foot, Von Miller trying to get back. I mean, the pass rush is where this offense, the pass rush is where this defense needs to put all their eggs in,
right,
and let them soften the load for everybody else in the back. They need to carry the load. It all works yin and yang. You hear it at all times when the Bills' offense or defense is number one and whatnot. It's the back end has helped if the pressure is getting to them, and then the pressure is helped when the back end is holding up. I think with all of the injuries, without Milano and then all the guys dinged up in the secondary, I think that front four pass rush has to get better. Sean McDermott says he saw flashes against Cincinnati and feels like it's building up a little bit. But I would also say, was it game plan specific then? Because you were blitzing a lot against Cincinnati, and if you feel like you're seeing good strides from a defensive front, why are you blitzing extra?
Yeah, I think the idea of having that defensive front forcing bad decisions on quarterbacks is something that's a must at this point. Turnovers have been an issue, John. Bills haven't had interception in a while, so let me ask you this. And I mean, this is fan stuff, but I saw on social media a lot of criticism on Von Miller and where he's at and this expectation that by now he should be good to go. I mean, the dude's coming off a major knee injury, suffered on Thanksgiving. I wasn't expecting much from him until December. I don't think it's too realistic to think that he should be full go and that, you know, he's not helping. He's hurting the Bills' pass rush right now. And I don't know. I just hear that, and I think it's totally absurd to even talk like that about a guy of Von Miller's stature, whatever you want to say, and where he's at as far as returning from a major injury.
1 tackle, 1 quarterback hit in the 5 games since he's come back. I agree with you. I think maybe people's expectations – let me say this. I'm going to go back. I don't necessarily think people's expectations were skewed and off. I think the urgency, because the pass rush hasn't played as well as it has recently, and the other injuries on defense, I think that altered the way people viewed what Von Miller needs to be
right,
and when he needs to be that. That's where I think the change has come. And I don't 100% disagree that this defense could use a boost from Von Miller, and maybe you'd like to see more flashes. But Miller said the Cincinnati game was the first time he did not play and think about his knee. That's 5 games. 5 games it took him to take the field and play uninhibited, nothing mentally there for him. And he says he feels like he's getting closer. It's just time on task. That's such a coach phrase, but that's what it is. I mean, think of it. The guy, and he says this, he had no offseason. And even if you just say he skipped everything, and let's just start from training camp. Training camp starts at late July. They don't play a football game till the 2nd week of September. So that's 6 weeks of practicing with 2 to 3 preseason games that starters played, that he got none of that. And now he's played 5 games. That's what, 4.5, 5 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
So there's your window.
Well, if the NFL is rigged, as they say, Von Miller going up against the Broncos should have a multiple sack game and a solid performance going up against his former team.
Isn't it crazy? I kind of forgot about this angle until people started talking about it today, and I'm like, oh, that's right. And I thought about it, I think, a couple days ago of, oh, is this the first time Von's played the Denver Broncos? And then I forgot about it. And, like, yeah, it's a cool story. He says he keeps in touch with people there, but ownership's different.
Right.
Coaching staff is different. And so and he didn't leave poorly. It was, we can get something. We're going in a different direction. They sent him to a team, and he won a Super Bowl. So it all worked out for him. I think it'd be cool, to see some guys and stuff like that. But just the now for the Buffalo Bills and what they need from Von Miller, I think it's the team's 5-4. The pass rush isn't what it was. The rest of the defense is depleted with injuries of star players. And so you thought you'd get this injection of a Hall of Fame talent, and you thought, okay, I don't need Von Miller to be Von Miller, but I mean, he's definitely going to pop on the page, for lack of a better term, a couple times when he's in there. He plays 25, 30 snaps, so I'll notice it, a handful, and maybe you aren't. And that's, I think, also part of it.
Script says it will be a big game on Monday night for him, John. Let's go to it. Weather, cold and wet from what I've been told. Last 3 weeks, every time I did the forecast, you told me I was wrong.
Let me
And
check.
ultimately, I was. But our Spectrum News 1 meteorologist, Kaylee Went, tells me it's going to be rainy and cold and miserable on Monday night.
Well, I'm always told don't trust the apps.
Yeah.
Currently says a high of 50 with 15% chance of precipitation.
I'm going to go with our own meteorologist. From BetMGM, Jon. Bills, -7.5 in this one. I can't do it. Until I'm shown otherwise, can't do it. That's just too much.
I'm going to take it.
All right.
It's too much, but I'm going to take it.
I just can't. I can't do it right now. Over under 47 points.
Under.
I'm going with the under too. Again, I'm staying at that same unless you show me otherwise. Final score for this game, Jon. I look at it like I have the last couple of night games over there at Highmark Stadium. This is one where we're waiting to the final whistle to blow, and it's a low score. But I'll go with like 24 to 20.
I'm going to go 24-14 Bills.
Yeah, I have Bills on top too, so we'll do that. All right, we're in agreement on that. I do think that this is setting up for the Bills to end up getting the win. Jon, 3 and out. You know nothing about what I'm going to ask you right now. Dan Lebertard on his show calling out Aaron Rodgers, saying because of what you saw on Monday Night Football pregame, maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't really have an Achilles injury like they've been saying. Maybe it's something else, because there's got to be another reason why he looks like he's coming back from an Achilles injury quicker than every other player in NFL history ever has. I think that's just ridiculous.
What makes him think that just someone lightly throwing passes pregame is an indicator that he is returning from an Achilles injury faster than anybody ever?
Well, Rodgers also, likes to push that he does something else other than the classic stuff that medical trainers would be telling him to do, and that's why he's coming back quicker.
He's not
than
playing this
else.
season, so
He's not, and even if he could, he's not anyways.
the only way is if they made the Super Bowl. I mean not that you would not
The Jets
start
in the
Aaron
Super Bowl.
Rodgers, but if Zach Wilson was on a heater that got the Jets to the Super Bowl, is Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles first game going to be benching Zach Wilson? If we thought Flutie versus Rob Johnson in the Music City Miracle was something, imagine that scenario in New York City.
Hey, Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe. Brady hurt his ankle before that first Super Bowl. There was talk that Bledsoe should start. We'll go to the NBA in-season tournament, Jon. I don't like basketball. I'm a big hockey guy. I don't get having a tournament in season other than just a flat-out money grab. I don't get it. I don't care about it. I don't care about the new courts that they're designing for this tournament. It means nothing to me. But you're a big NBA guy.
Yep.
And is this something that remotely piques your interest?
No, not at all. And frankly, I don't even understand it. Number one, the courts are horrible.
That's true.
I turned on the Cavs Pacers, and I couldn't even watch. It was this god-awful blue in the middle it stunk. It was horrible. Any of these color rush jersey combinations that people complain about for the NFL Thursday night games or whatever, they pale in comparison, literally pale in comparison to the crap that I'm seeing in these in-season tournaments. I also don't get it. The Cavs played an in-season tournament game. Then they're back to regular season games. This just like they're random games here and there. And then in a league where they're having issues with load management and players not playing enough,
Right.
You're now adding more games to the season. I don't get it. I'm not a fan, but maybe if I educated myself more, I would be. But I'm fine with just the normal 82 games and watching the league as it is.
Seems awfully gimmicky to me. The Netflix Cup, Jon, do you know what that is?
Not at all.
So it's some of the guys from Full Swing, the PGA guys, teaming up with a few guys from the F1 series, the drivers. playing 8 holes of golf out in Las Vegas. The 2 teams that are in front will play the 9th hole to decide who the champion is. There are Colin Morikawa's in it. Justin Thomas is in it. I think Rory's in it. I don't follow the F1 stuff, so I don't know who any of those guys
Max
are.
Verstappen.
Sure.
He's a Bills fan, I think.
I think I saw his name on there somewhere. Next Tuesday, John, something you'd be willing to watch, and off the top of my head, I think I'm wrong, and I don't know what time zone it is, but I saw 3 o'clock in the afternoon it would start. So 3 o'clock East Coast time on a Tuesday.
After a Monday night game for the Bills, no thank you.
Well, hear me out. You and I will have worked till the wee hours of Tuesday morning.
Get home at 3 a.m., yep.
I might be waking up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and just put on some golf and enjoy the day. I'm going to tune in. I want to see what it's all about.
And it's live on Netflix?
Yes.
I didn't know they did live programming.
It's their first live program.
If I remember, I'll maybe turn it on, but I don't know any of the drivers, and I like these crossover or these cool events that they've done in Vegas and stuff, the match and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But even that's kind of gotten out of whack with, like, the Splash Brother. Like, that was terrible. I didn't even watch it. So, I don't know. Like, these guys, it's can be fun, but because I don't know any of the drivers, I don't know if I care.
Marshawn Lynch will be doing the color.
I mean, he's entertaining.
He is entertaining. I don't know. I think it's good. I saw one response to it like, why does every one of these combo events involve playing golf? Why not have the golfers race F1 cars around as well and have each guy do the other guy's sport?
Oh, the F1 race is in Vegas this week or next week. Is that probably coinciding with this?
Probably has to do with what's going on there too. So I'll watch that. I probably change the channel. I will not watch the NBA in-season tournament. And Aaron Rodgers is not playing football at all the rest of the season. We're all together on that?
We are, yes.
All right, here we go. Bills, got to right the ship. Got to do it now. Host the Denver Broncos. Monday Night Football, last real primetime game for a while for the Bills. Again, that's coming up on Monday night. John and I, fresh Buffalo End Zone podcast following that. And, of course, Fred Jackson, John, and myself have the post-game show coming up and see where the Bills are at. And then the New York Jets coming up the following week. For Jon Scott, I'm Kevin Carroll. As always, thanks for joining us, everyone.